guys, welcome back. Only 2 weeks today, the Halo TV show finally drops after 9 years of waiting. So today, I thought we'd take a step back from Halo Infinite for just a minute, step away from coping about that game, and talk about the Halo TV show. I want to give my brutally honest thoughts on what we've seen so far, and what I think about the show overall, because I've got some good, and I've got some bad, but I do think, not to kind of spoil the video or anything, I'm kind of hopeful for this show long term. Real quick though, first, I do just want to let you guys in on my content plans for the show. So in the first few hours or the day after an episode airs, I'm going to have a reaction / thoughts video going live where it's just going to be my totally unscripted, immediate thoughts on what happened in the episode and what I thought of it. And then, depending on the content of the episodes, I might also do an explainer video, maybe 2 or 3 days after an episode airs, going into detail, covering elements of the lore of an episode, or certain plot points, or the overarching story, and giving theories on where it might go. So lots of fun content will hopefully be spawned from this show, but for now, let's talk about my brutally honest thoughts on what we've seen about it so far. Oh, also, I can't show the trailer on screen, or I get copyrighted, which is really fun, so I'm afraid you'll have to make do with pictures from the trailers. So then, my biggest fear going into this show was that it was going to look kind of cheap like Nightfall and Forward Unto Dawn did for me. The overall presentation of those shows didn't look like the budget that Halo deserved. It always looked kind of cheap and tacky and not quite, parts of it even didn't look official to me. A lot of the CGI, for example, just was not good. And I'm really happy to say that based on what we've seen so far from the show, it doesn't look cheap in any way. In fact, I think it really looks like the budget that it's had. I assume it's had a very high budget. The VFX, the costume design, the directing, it all looks really good, like the quality that I would expect from a Halo show, which is great. I have really high hopes for the production of this show in general, from the acting to the effects to the costume design to all that stuff. I really think that in that sense, we're in for a treat. Now, one of the biggest things that people have been talking about recently is the fact that Chief will be showing his face in the TV show. Now, I'm kind of indifferent on this. I saw it coming from a mile away. You don't cast someone like Pablo Schreiber and have them hide their face for the entire show. I think this was always going to happen. That said, I hope they don't do it all the time and have it be a frequent thing. One of my favourite aspects of The Mandalorian was the fact that Din never showed his face except for 1 or 2 times, and those times were really special. It meant that him showing his face actually meant something, and I really hope that that's the case for Chief. By the looks of it, we're going to be seeing Silver Team's faces a lot, which is kind of what happens with Blue Team in the main Halo canon, but I hope that Chief kind of contrasts with that and doesn't ever take his helmet off unless it's absolutely necessary to really drive home an emotional point or to really make a plot point stick well. I think if they did it tastefully and rarely, it could work really well. That said though, playing so much Elden Ring lately has really made me miss silent protagonists, and given that Chief in Halo 1, 2, and 3 was for the most part a silent protagonist, I do hope that part of his character is integrated into his character in the show somehow. Another hope that I have for the show that, based on what we've seen so far, I think we might end up getting is just some absolutely epic, insanely cool battle scenes that really show Halo action off in the most badass manner possible. I want to see Chief and Silver Team going crazy with a whole array of Halo weapons, while spirits and phantoms are dropping in hordes of Covenant around them, and Helljumpers are falling from the sky in drop pods and avoiding Banshees and Falcons that are dogfighting above. If we get that sense of scale that Halo is so well known for with its battles, and we get it served in a Battle of the Bastards or Helm's Deep manner, then honestly, even if the story ends up being shit, I won't care. That alone will make me content with this show. And I also think as well that would be one of the best ways to reel in a general audience who maybe don't know much or anything at all about Halo. You show them Spartans destroying Covenant in a really cool fashion, and I mean, who won't want to watch that, right? That said though, kind of on the topic of narrative, I'm gonna be honest, I have very, very low expectations for this show's narrative. I really worry that, for example, that human who's raised by the Covenant for CGI budget reasons is gonna end up replacing the Arbiter and his story arc, and given that the Arbiter is my favorite Halo character of all time and Halo 2 is my favorite game of all time, that would not make me very happy. The Arbiter as a character has been grossly underutilized post-Halo 3, and if his story in the TV show and his role end up getting overwritten by something as silly as a human being raised by the Covenant, then I'm not going to be happy. Another narrative-focused thing that I'm not a fan of so far is the tagline that they're using for the show, which is "Find the Halo, win the war." Now, unless this thing is intentionally ambiguous and or misleading, I'm not a fan of it. Granted, it could be a case of like, I don't know, we win the war because we prevent the Covenant from getting what they want, that being the Halo rings, but something about this tagline, to me at least, kind of insinuates that we actually want to use the Halos against the Covenant or something like that to win the war and stop them, which doesn't make sense. I don't think I need to explain why. There is also the chance as well that the reason that they've got that as the tagline is that they want the tagline that they mass market the show with to have Halo in it, which would make sense to appeal to a mass audience. But either way, it doesn't make much sense and I'm not fond of it. Now, on the topic of the show being part of the Silver Canon, so another canon entirely, honestly, I won't mind if there's like the odd little retcon here and there. I think that's fine to kind of bend Halo's story for like the small screen. I think the odd little retcon can be relieved, but I draw the line at like any major details about the canon or like timeline events or anything like that being changed, because I think when you hit that point, when you've got to retcon such big details, it kind of just falls on lazy writing. I also think to a degree that having the show being set in a totally different canon does show a lack of faith and understanding in Halo's standard canon and the potential of that canon. Like, I'm not one of these people that's completely against the idea of the show being non-canon, but simultaneously, I do think like, well, there's so much stuff in the main canon that could be so easily turned into a TV show, or there are so many gaps in the main canon that could be filled in with a TV show. Why not go that route, you know? It does kind of come off as a lack of faith in the main canon when I think it could be quite easily adapted to the small screen. But that said, I do get that some things from the games will need to be altered or changed to fit the small screen. Like, it's never going to translate one-to-one over. I think there's always got to be a little bit of adaptation there. My only concern is how far that adaptation is going to end up going when the source material is already so good. And speaking of the source material, let's get back to the positives, because there are actually quite a few things that I really like that they've taken from the main canon to be used in the TV show. Firstly, Spartan Soren. Soren's got a fantastic backstory in the main canon that's kind of been forgotten about. The last time we heard anything about Soren, I believe, was Halo Evolutions in 2009, I think, his story Pariah, which was fantastic. It's a really tragic backstory, and I'm hoping that with him being in the show, they're going to expand on that backstory and fill us in on, at least in that canon, what he's been up to. Now, my worry with this, though, is that they're going to end up like retconning or changing details about his past, which is unnecessary because his backstory in the main canon is already so good. I don't see a reason to change any of that. But hopefully they won't. Hopefully we just get like a natural continuation of where his story left off. Oh, and there's also the fact that his fit in the show looks so damn cool. A leather duster over Mjolnir? Like, dude, come on. That is such a sick outfit. With Margaret Parangoski being present, the Commander-in-Chief of Oni, I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that there's going to be quite a lot of like Oni fuckery in this show. Now, that's one of my favorite aspects of the Halo universe as a whole. I love like all the dark, shady, and disturbing, shall I say, things that Oni have done in the past, and if that were to be integrated almost in like a Hunt the Truth style into the show, then I'd be really excited. The fact that the rubble is not only present, but by the looks of it will be taking center stage in the show is also really exciting as well. That said though, I really do hope that they utilize a lot of the story points from the Cole Protocol that revolved around the rubble, like insurrectionists trading with jackals, Grey Team, the nav data they're trying to secure, and all that stuff. Honestly, the presence of Captain Keyes in the storyline in the TV show, in addition to the rubble as well, makes me think that we might at least get some of these plot points from Cole Protocol in the show, which would be fantastic. Also, if we end up seeing Diego, then I will be a happy man. On the same note, I'm really excited to see High Charity in the show. I'm not entirely sold on the kind of Art Deco aesthetic of it, but the inner areas of High Charity, what little we saw of them, looked fantastic. My only worry with High Charity is if that whole human raised by the Covenant thing does end up replacing the Arbiter story arc, I'm just going to end up like audibly sighing every time we go to High Charity, and I don't want that to be the case, because like the idea of a High Charity looking this good in a TV show is so cool. I just hope that it's not ruined by a really poor story arc that revolves around it. Now, I actually have a little bit of a theory about this show. I have a feeling that it's gonna be quite fanservice-y to both leverage and also make up for the fact that it's not in the regular canon. So, with that in mind, I expect / kind of hope to see some unannounced character appearances. Some that I'd like to see are Johnson, of course, Buck, Artas, Arbiter, Tartarus, and maybe even like a member or two of Noble Team or something like that. Just a few characters like that like 343 No fans absolutely love. Seeing like Johnson or Emil or Artas or Tartarus like on the silver screen would be so damn cool. That said though, fanservice is something that can really go either way. Fanservice can be done in a tasteful manner, and it can also be done in a really untasteful, cheap, and just lazy manner. So if they were to do this, obviously this is just a theory, but if they were to do this, then obviously I'd want it to be done in a tasteful manner, but you never know. Something I really don't like about this show is how it's being distributed. So it's going to be on Paramount Plus, I think, in most regions, but Paramount Plus doesn't come out, in the UK at least, until summer. So you're pretty much going to have to VPN to watch it, which is really silly. It's like what happened with Mando when Disney Plus didn't come out till like 5 months after that finished in the UK. I don't like it. I don't like this, this is very off topic, but I really don't like the amount of like subscription services nowadays. Like, it's just a subscription service war. You're paying more now for all these sub-services than you were for like cable TV, which is what they were meant to replace in a more efficient manner. But that's a completely different tangent. Something completely unrelated. But yeah, I don't like how it's being distributed internationally. So to kind of round this all out, one good bit of news, I assume, is that season 2 of this show has actually already been greenlit, which must mean that executives who finalize the funding for these shows are optimistic about the Halo show. But then again, I don't really put much stock in that, because I don't exactly trust some like out of touch executive to know what works and what doesn't work for a Halo TV show, especially when this show has taken so many interesting routes in how it's going to present itself and the canon. I don't fully trust that, but we'll see. We're getting a season 2 at least, which is good, I guess. And yeah, that's pretty much my brutal thoughts right now on the TV show. Let me know what you guys are thinking about the show right now, whether you're like optimistic or whether you're more pessimistic about it. I think there's quite a lot of reasons to be both, quite honestly, so let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. And with that said, I'm going to round this one out here. I want to give a massive thank you to all of my amazing patrons for the continued support over there as per usual, and thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll catch you all in the next one.